Greetings everyone, my name is Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And once again, I'd like to beautify that world with another one of my comic book gems. Now during times like this, you can never have too many. Some gems shine brighter than others and some are easier to find. Others, you really have to dig for. And among those gems that take a little extra digging, Starfire by Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti is definitely worth the effort. Now this particular gem is one that didn't just slip under the radar. It got unjustly buried by larger forces within the comic book world. And that's a shame too, because this series achieved something remarkable. It took a character who has been poorly written and underdeveloped, historically speaking, and gave her some much needed TLC. And for a character like Starfire, a little of that goes a long way. Now to appreciate why this series is such a gem, you have to appreciate the context in which it came out. You see, this Starfire series came out during a somewhat controversial time for Starfire, to say the least. It was also a controversial time for DC Comics as a whole. This was around the tail end of DC's New 52 era. This ambitious attempt to completely reboot their continuity was very controversial, to say the least. Many fans are still arguing about it, and while this era was a boon for certain characters, it did not do Starfire any favors. She was basically reduced to an alien fembot. During her time with the Red Hood and the Outlaws, her primary purpose was to look good in a bikini, throw around sexual innuendo, and occasionally fight bad guys. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that, but she had no depth to her character whatsoever. There was no heart and no story outside her sex appeal. And I've got nothing against sex appeal, especially in comic book characters. Not in the slightest. Starfire's character has always been sexualized, and not just by graphic fan art. Sexuality is actually an important part of her personality. Being an alien from a culture that's so big on intimate connections, it actually makes sense. And it's a great concept for a character, but one that's difficult to flesh out in a meaningful way. No pun intended. Her long history with the Teen Titans has many examples of this. There are times when she strikes a perfect balance between sexy alien and compassionate heroine. And it's within those times that make her such an endearing character. But during most of the New 52, that balance was just not there. But it is present in this series. It's not a total reinvention of the character, it just places Starfire in a novel yet appropriate setting where she can shine in her own fiery way. And make no mistake, setting is key in the DC universe. Batman has Gotham City, Superman has Metropolis, The Flash has Central City. For Starfire, she finds a place all her own in Key West, Florida. While it's not some fanciful fictional city, it works perfectly for her. It's a hot, tropical setting full of very colorful people. It's not some crime-ridden alley or some exotic alien world. It's just a real place that happens to attract unusual people. And because of her nature, Starfire fits right in. From the first issue and for the entire series, she makes many connections with a variety of those colorful people. Some are just ordinary individuals with no superpowers. Some are old friends from her Teen Titans days. Some are just looking to get away from the affairs of their exotic subterranean civilization. Yes, those are all real plots in this series. And trust me, they're more colorful than you think. Now on paper, you don't think that these sorts of things could run together. One moment, Starfire is enjoying a beer with her new female friend, a sheriff named Stella. The next, she's battling a giant rock monster. Along the way, she finds time to be cheerful, compassionate, and exceedingly comfortable with casual nudity, albeit in a very tasteful way. But that's exactly what makes this series such a gem. It doesn't attempt to mute Starfire's outgoing, overly emotional personality, and it doesn't attempt to avoid the more sexual aspects of her character too, but not to the point where it's gratuitous. Now, I love sexy female superheroes as much as the next comic-loving straight guy, but there's a fine line between being sexual and just being crude. And at no point in this series does it feel like Starfire's sex appeal is being milked for the most shallow of exploits. Yes, she wears a bikini at times, and there are a few overtly sexual moments, but it's never done in a way that makes her sex appeal her most defining trait. More than anything else, this series highlights and celebrates her emotional, empathetic nature and how she affects others around her. The friends she makes, as well as the enemies who emerge along the way, are all influenced by her unique personality. She brings out emotions in others that really humanize them. This is best shown in her new friend, Sheriff Stella. Now, she's no Commissioner Gordon, but she really shines throughout this series, giving a human element to the more fanciful aspects of Starfire's world. It also shows when she crosses paths with Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. That plot, which injects a little spy thriller action into the series, and that was very necessary because the New 52 really undermines some of Starfire's close personal times from her days with the Titans. Dick Grayson, along with their romantic history, was basically glossed over for the longest time. This series reestablishes that history and its importance. That alone is what makes this series so uniquely satisfying. It both reconnects Starfire with her past while exploring new connections in the present. Connor and Palmati even dare to have fun with that process. Starfire is just such a cheerful, lighthearted, fun-loving person by nature. It's not necessary to set that aside for the sake of being a good female superhero. If anything, her personality is what makes her unique, and this series embraces that uniqueness to the utmost. And in an era where every female superhero is trying to stand out, Starfire still finds a way to shine. Sadly, the series ended too soon. It had to in order to make way for DC's upcoming Rebirth initiative. But despite only going for 12 issues, Starfire made every issue count. And if you're curious about the character, or just want to see a female superhero with perfectly balanced sex appeal, Starfire is definitely a gem worth checking out. As always, I provided a Comixology link below in the description. See for yourself. This gem deserves a special place in your collection. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please stay tuned for more comic book gems. Also like, comment, and subscribe. Take care and stay safe, everyone.